Human Resource Expo Africa HREA Summit. This year's theme is the art of employee engagement.
When it comes to ROI, the dynamics changes. Quite unfortunate for me, this past quarter has been so hectic. I have 2 flashes that are the same, and I picked the wrong one coming here. But well, the content is still here, so there's no problem. That's the difference. I've also, because you see, ROI is critical. Why? One of the challenges we see in Nigeria is we see that there are lots of packaged organizations without content. And, sorry? And so one of the things we'll look at is, sorry guys. Can you move to the next slide? I don't know why it's not working. Or maybe sit down there, just move it to the next slide. Okay. And this is where it basically starts from. Value. And when you look at it from the perspective is that ROI speaks of value. Now, there's a simple definition about it, which is in terms of the monetary benefits of a training or learning intervention. But when it comes to HRO, it means different things. Because sometimes you could spend money, the training is good, but it could have what is called, I call an Andrew liver salt effect. Meaning, you just see, like, if it's a sales program, you just see that sales 3 months goes up, but after like 6 months, it begins to go down again. And that's why we say for value, I tell people that value has to keep evolving, It's not going to be that stable. And why is it difficult, especially for HRO, is that I deal a lot with salespeople. It's easy for them to measure ROI. Very easy. They can tell you, look, we want to increase sales 30%. Very easy. But HRO can't come and say, we want to increase performance by 30%. There are both tangibles and intangibles involved. And that's why the first thing starts from value. And that's why when you want to measure ROI, the key thing at the back of your mind is who are the stakeholders. Because what I found out is at times our measuring metrics, as like what Alex mentioned, custodians of employee engagement and culture, it's a different matrix from the stakeholders. And one of the things I've also seen is that stakeholders vary. Recently, we had a client who called us to say, look, we wanted to do a customized program on doing business with Nigerians. So I was wondering, I was saying, is it that, I know this company is multidimensional. I said, is it for your expatriate staff? They said, no, its majority is for Nigerians. So I was talking with the HR person and all of that. And you won't believe, when we went out, we did surveys, we talked with people. Doing business with Nigerian is very dynamic. One thing we noticed, number one, is that Nigeria has a higher, what I call relationship affinity than most countries. A higher relationship affinity. And because of that, and that's why every organization I know in Nigeria, they have 2 kinds of organogram. Official organogram and unofficial organogram. And most times, what I've seen is that unofficial organogram rules. And that's why for the HR person, when it comes to ROI, who are the stakeholders I'm dealing with? What language are they speaking? If I come to Nigeria, yes, you have the MD. You also have, because most times learning intervention goes through what I call the gatekeepers, the guys in procurement, audit, and all of that. They have a role to play. So they are also stakeholders. So you must have at the back of your mind, how are you engaging? Why do I say this? One, there's a multinational oil and gas company where a client is doing something with. And in engaging, their CFO was just saying, well, I hope this particular one will be well. You know, we've been spending money. And the head of HR was just sitting there. I felt it was wrong. Because if a CFO is telling a consultant, we've been spending money on learning interventions, we are not getting the results, and the head of HRO is not saying anything, well, apart it shows a bit of the power play, but it also shows that, look, I don't understand what my portfolio is. Because it is not an indictment to the consultants, but to HR. And that's why stakeholders analysis is very important. We tell people that you must understand how your organization thinks. And especially when it's informal, there's no how. Sorry, when Alex talked about it, he said you must be custodians of value. I tell people that, look, there is no how that you won't find yourself in that politics maze. There is no how. It's the reality of at any senior level. It's just knowing how to position it. I'll share two quick stories. This last year, public sector related, the director was like, want to do this program, but you see, Briggs, I think this program should be done across board, but we only have a budget for 200 people. But I've understood certain things called stakeholders. It was a leadership engagement. And I said, okay, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to integrate a video-based training into it. And she said, how? I said, we're going to interview the minister. Basically just ask him 4 or 5 questions. It's going to be recorded. She said, okay. I said, we're also going to interview the permanent secretary. Leadership-based, 4 or 5 questions. I said, okay, no problem. We would arrange that. But she didn't. She was asking, where would this go to? For me, why did I say the minister? The minister is the political stakeholder. But in the ministry, the permanent secretary is like the administrative stakeholder. Now, guess what happened? They initially had 200 people. By the time we did the first one, I said, look, get some of the minister's special advisors to be part of the first stream. It was 25 people each, 200 people, so 8 streams. She called me 2 days later. She said, Briggs, I just got a call from the minister commending the program and saying that he thinks the program should be, more people should be involved. What happened? The essay is telling the minister, sir, we saw your video. It was very impactful and all of that. Simple. Massaged his ego. And he just gave, now as I speak to you, the program moved from 200 people to 500. Understanding the stakeholders. That's the first thing. Why? Because stakeholders, they measure different things. Why for us, we measure what we call certain things based on the impact, performance, and all that. The critical stakeholder measure different things. Because you could do something so well, and somebody will say, we're not feeling it. And you're like, but we're not feeling it. So that for me is value. So value, it must be taught in terms of who your stakeholders are. Yes, please. Next. And I said this, how do you define value? It must be balanced with both qualitative and quantitative. It must contain financial. And that's why at times, ROI in HRO cannot just be financial. You should be able to capture the intangibles. It could be work-life balance. It can't just be, the number of retention. There must be something else. And that's why you can't do it just by surveys. There is the survey part, which I call the formal part of data extraction. And there's the informal part. And I believe strongly in interviews. Why do I believe that? Most times, we do what we call our happy or smile sheets in training programs. And Nigerians, that's the thing about Nigerians. Nigerians are very sympathetic. Classic case, anything you see, you saw the success story. A lady says, they are flogging me in school. And within 1 week, ₦1 million has been gotten. There was a lady in Asaba 2 days ago. Somehow fraudsters took 400,000 from her account. It was on Twitter. And somebody just sent a message, please find this woman, I'll give her back the 400K. So we found out that Nigerians, in our study of doing business with Nigerians, we found that Nigerians are very sympathetic. So when you give an evaluation sheet after a training, the person is looking at, oh, Mr. Briggs, I don't want Mr. Briggs that, so that the bank doesn't stop using him. So they just mark it good, 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 good. It's part of us. I know a particular, why do I say that? A company did training needs analysis and they deployed it. And because it was coming from HR, it was assess yourself according to these competencies. People saw it as, if I should mark 2, HR, they will say I'm incompetent. So everybody was marking 9, 10, 9, 10. And at the end, when they collated it, that means everybody didn't need training or any form of learning intervention. So I tell people that it's not just that. If you want to get things from Nigerians, discuss. Try to create a fora of that discussion. So you have the former, which is the questionnaires, the surveys, and all of that. To get more of the non-financial perspectives is discussions. I need to move fast. It says you must, that's why I said value is satisfy all key stakeholders. It also says it must come from credible sources. That is why I strongly believe my definition is that HRO they understand the pulse of any organization. If people are disenfranchised, HRO knows. It's not playing the ostrich. And that's why you must get it from credible sources. Whenever we do, in evaluation, we have 2 kinds of evaluation when it comes to training. We have what is called the formative evaluation, which is before the training kind of things we do, and the summative, which is after. Now, this is what we do if we're doing a performance-based or attitudinal-based program. We find out management perspectives, then we find out from 2 sets of people. The people HRO claims are performing, and the people HRO says are not performing. And in engaging with them, it gives us a clearer picture of this, because this is very important. So one of the key questions you ask yourself, who are our credible sources? Another people are in your organization, who are the catalysts? There's something we call the friendly faces. Who are those people? HR needs to begin to identify those people, because you see, a catalyst wants to change an organization. And so you must begin to find out those people. Now, this is what has happened, which I would go along as we go around. It says, look, in HR, basically stakeholders are asking me, show me. And how do you show them? The kind of data you have. The kind of data you have. Also, it shows me, show me the money. It's always a big challenge of how do you convert some of those things from non-financial to financial terms. And one of the ways we say that is that you might not be able to do all, but you can pick one. I give a classic case. Like number 1, we can say, look, I'll say maybe, let me pick 2. What has happened with all our learning interventions? Staff attrition rate has reduced. What do you mean? You can do a year analysis, meaning first thing you do in terms of how do you convert data to money. You can just pick one attribute, staff attrition rate, between 2018 and 2019. You know your recruitment cost. You can put in your, how many people left last year, what it cost you to recruit. Now, in 2018, you found out that that has come down. Why? Maybe due to the learning intervention. Maybe because you put in, because currently now, one of the things I think critical is that every organization must begin to entrench coaching and mentoring. Why do I say that? You can't compete on salary. You can't compete on salary. So what happens, you're on 600. Another company is offering 650. You move, you now say, let's make 650. By the time you add 650, another person is paying 700. And so you can. But what is coaching and mentoring for me? Why do I think is key? Is that everybody following Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the best way to engage employees for me is that they see you in their future. or you are interested in their future. Because everybody has a self-actualization and it's their future. So if my boss, as I'm talking to you, sir, and you're giving me certain tips and all of that, the truth is that I ask myself, if I leave this organization and go somewhere else, do you know it could just be about the money? But that advice, that thing that you're talking to me to make me better would be missing. So I believe strongly that has to be added to it. And so you can pick, like now we did a sales program. Last year, I'm talking about the second point. How do you convert data to money? Last year, we lost 10 clients. And they'll tell you that it cost about 5-6 times to get a new client. I'm talking key accounts. But this year, we have gained, we haven't lost any. There's a sum to that, and we have gained 2. So all you do is that you just pick a particular attribute. You give a value to it, and you do a bit of calculation around it. That is how sometimes you can convert data to money. Now, what is show me the real money? For you at times to promote, because we tell people now in L&D, one of the things that is critical is marketing. You must market what? Either programs, but you must be out there in your employees' face. What we say about isolate effects is this. You sent my colleague for a program, and I didn't go for that program. You evaluate us after 3 months. What has he gained that I haven't gained? That's what that is showing. That's why it says isolated. Oh, he went for this program. Before he went, one of the things they complained about him was feedback. His managers complained about feedback. He doesn't give feedback. He's a soloist. He's not a team player. But in 3 months, I have talked with his manager, and his manager has said these are improvements. But you see, Briggs that didn't go for that training, he still has that problem. You use that as a basis of justification. Also, you need to, you see, I strongly believe that one of the most, I say that human resource people are the custodians of destinies. Why do I say that? Because you're managing people. And that's why I also believe that because of that, they are supposed to be one of the most influential in any organization. And so what that means is that you interface with different people. You interface with different managers. And you sit down and discuss with them. One of the things I try to do, because I found out that if we're doing any engagement, I have a list of people I insist, any consulting engagement, I have a list of people I insist I must talk to before the program starts. Why? It helps build credibility and helps me get my buy-in, which is very important. Now, how does that translate? If you're sending people for a program, what is your engagement level with their line managers? Is it just an email? Oh, these people have been nominated. What is the engagement? Why am I saying that? Is that people actually don't leave organizations because of HR, but because of sometimes their bosses and supervisors. So HR's engagement level with their managers has to change. It has to be stronger because managers at times are very busy, but HR needs data from managers. I've seen line managers that we used to send performance appraiser. The man bases it only on 1 month experience. Just because they say they are so busy. So they just look, this is too much information. What do they want? And we have issues. So that's why I said this part is key, where your engagement with managers are important. And so that's why some of these things that have changed. I need to run. Well, this is simple, which is how do you calculate return on investment? Basically, a program benefits and program divided by program costs. Now, this is for just the financial part of ROI. And that's where you can quantify what were the benefits. What were the benefits? And also, what's a program cost? And this is where, because of this, you know that Because of this, as much as possible, for you to have a higher ROI, you must look at how you reduce costs. One of the trends for 2019 as regards learning and development is that training must be what they call bit-sized. There's so much information. So you must assess your people to know how they can get the relevant training at the bottom. Why? I have a problem. I have a challenge. I am supposed to be managing high net worth individuals, but I have a low self-esteem problem. And the time HRO has fixed for my training is in June. So do you know it's possible that my performance might not rise till after June? And that's what they're saying, that the L&D people need to begin to look at how do they integrate what I call learning on the spot. This is a challenge. How do we begin to do that? And that correlates with how can you reduce your program costs. We know we have direct cost, indirect cost, and all that. But in ROI, there's a lot that goes in here about cost. And this is the formula. Normally with this formula, they say anything above 100% means that you have a high return on investment. That's the way this formula works. Say it's the benefits minus the cost over program cost times 100. Now that's what I'm saying. There are parts that are tangible and there are parts that are intangible. Like I give you a classic case, which was what I was talking about. Let's say attrition rates. Because of our program, we have low attrition rate. How? What is the cost of getting a new person? So last year, let's say 2017. 2017, 25 people left the organization. So we had to get 25 new people. What was the cost of that recruitment process? So this year now, because we have integrated coaching and mentoring, employee engagement has gone up. And we've only lost 5. So we need to recruit 5. So what you found out is that the benefit of having everybody like that number, it's like a benefit, minus what it cost us for doing the coaching and mentoring. You'll find that that's what I mean by how sometimes you have to give a figure to it. It's just like also maybe at times in service delivery. When we lose a client or we lose service, there's service failure, what is the cost implication? And that is why for L&D, you must begin to engage with different units. What is let me use an example from an FMCG company. They brought in a new product. It was a seasoning, one of the seasoning. But the product they brought in was low. And so people had issues and all of that. And now we had to do a program for them. And this was one of the things that helped us. We sat down with the sales team across Nigeria, just questions on the phone, and said, what was your sales last year? What is it this year? In terms of people and all of that. And we got a cumulative figure. And so we told them that, you see, this is what, by the time we did this, their ROI was negative, meaning that they had a bad product. And this was the cost that it was giving the company. So the MD was like, okay, so what do we need to do? Why am I saying this? Because they had introduced a new product they wanted to push. And the MD wasn't sure whether they needed to retrain the staff. So we had to do this, which is, look, this is what has been dropping across in sales. I don't know if that answers your question. What it means is that, for me, pick a variable. Pick a variable. Assign a unit to that variable. Or can we just do that like a bit of a case study, then we'll close out the class? I'll just share something. You can pick a variable. It could be, help me out, attrition rate. What is the cost average to getting a new person into your organization? You know that cost. Now, if you have done a program that has reduced attrition rate, the cost of that program is what will be the program cost. The benefits of that reduction, so you've had a figure now that, oh, maybe we've had 25 people still in the system. The cost of those people being in the system is what is your program benefits. And you now subtract that program you did from it. It will now give you your ROI. It's the same thing with in service delivery. If you lose a key account, maybe I remember the telecom company they used the same model. They wanted to do a key account training. And so what they did, they asked themselves, how much was the program? Everything calculated. Now, a year later, they asked themselves, because of this program, how many key accounts have been generated, the value. So they took that minus the program cost, divided by it, and it was a higher ROI. So certain things are tangibles, but for the ones that are intangibles, you must give it a value. You must find a way to give it a value. That's why I said ROI in L&D is a bit different, because certain things are intangibles, but you must find a way to give it a value. Okay. Now, I just brought this, we just have like 5 minutes. And this is a global case study. And if you look at it, it talks about inputs, it talks about efficiency, it talks about, and all that. So, I said inputs. Last year, 550 employees were received formal learning. Now, most times, when asked, do we measure this? You get a high figure. But we should measure this in future. But however, do you see the ranking? It's about 6. I mean, when we present this to the CEO, CFO, it wasn't just the number of people that they were training. What is the highest here is impact. So I'll just focus on 1, 2, 3. Impact. Our programs are driving our top 3 business measures in the organization. Now, do they currently measure this? This was what some of the survey came out 8. But should we, from that management level, they said yes. And so when you're looking at what kind of learning interventions you would bring, the ones that have high ROIs are the ones aligned. That's why Alex mentioned we must understand the language of the business. It's not just training for training's sake, but what are the priorities of the organization? Then number 2, that's ranked number 2 was ROI studies. Meaning, and how do you go about ROI? Your data. It talks of your data. It says, we have conducted programs, studies. What came number 3 in terms of ranking? Awards. Our learning and development program won award with best places to work in Nigeria. For certain organizations, we started off with stakeholders. For certain people, that is the key. That is what they consider. So you begin to see there is CIPM and all of that. Now, this is the methodology to measure ROI. First, you must develop, every program must have an objective. One thing I need to say here is that, you see, when you want to measure ROI, it's not all your training programs. Please note that. It's not all your training programs. You must select programs, higher visibility, especially management is interested in. There's a criteria. You don't just say, okay, this is the ROI of all our programs. No, there's a criteria, which is like the visibility, the ones management is interested in. Because if you have an MD who is interested in brand image of the organization, and you are telling him that, oh, we trained everybody on communication skill, quote, it doesn't make sense to them. So you must review that. Then you must develop an evaluation plan and baseline data. You must collect data. during the program and all of that. So you begin to see that, like, and that's why for us as an organization, if you do a program, we give you a certificate of attendance. 3 months later, we give you a certificate of completion. Yeah. Because we found out that, yes, you could attend the program and you didn't complete because you were not there. So what do we do is that we administer a test for you 3 months later. Then also we try to have a 2-3 minutes chat with your manager before we give you a certificate of completion. And so you see that for ROI, collecting data is very key. This person went for, so the key question is, what is our post-evaluation after a program? What is the post-evaluation? Not just the pre-evaluation. That's what this tries to talk about. Sorry to say this, ROI, lots of work. However, there's a way you could break it down into bits and pieces, which is what? Communication. You must keep communicating with the relevant people. You must keep communicating. Whenever I used to, if I had people to go for programs, I made sure I would be like, who is this person? Can I have his details of his line manager? It was work, but sometimes over the weekend, I'll do SMS because I found out that, look, my week were busy. And over the weekend, just send an SMS. Oh, this person is going for a program, this. I hope you're aware. Saturday, Sunday. Oh, yeah, I've seen the memo. I got the email. Now, why did I do that? Because I wanted to have, what does it do for me? It creates a bit of an opening. So I pick up my intercom and I say, Alex, how are you? How's Tunde doing? You know, I attended the program. Tunde. Briggs, to be honest, I don't think that program had an effect on him. It's a 30 seconds. So we have that. But the truth is that if I didn't send Alex that SMS, and I just pick up my phone and it's like, yes, we need to. Why am I saying this? Is that, of course, in big organizations, it could be lots of work, but you need to especially identify, especially your key performers. That's why I say data is key. It's not just questionnaires and surveys and all of that. Then also, I've spoken about this, but you see, you must identify your intangible measures and you generate an impact study. So ROI is not just finance. You do a position paper. When this person came in, we have a group, we trained 75 people on time management. I could do case studies on like 5 of them, which is when this person came in, missed deadline, did this, and all of that. It can easily be verified. Why? I've engaged their manager. So when we put this out there to management, they begin to see the benefits of that the same thing. So it's not just the financial, but you must also identify this, especially in Nigeria. In Nigeria, our metrics are a bit different. They are intertwined. Somebody could leave a high-paying job for another one and says, oh, I just need my peace of mind. Another person might leave a low-paying, so my expenses have increased. So you must capture this. And I strongly believe that this is very important. My time is up. I'll just close off with a case study. It happened in FAN. You could Google it up. In 2017, the GM HR, he had issues with budgets. And what he did was he had the staff in learning in L&D. There were about 30 of them, 35 of them. So what he did, he didn't have a budget to train the organization in 2017, 2016, 2015. So what did he do? He wrote to management and requested that CMD comes to the organization to do a certification program. You know, Center for Management and Development, they do advanced ManDev and they did the two. And so within 6 months, he had 35 certified trainers. Then he took these 35 people across FAN locations in the country. By the time they calculated how much he had saved them, it was close to $500 million. Last year, of course, it's there in the papers. You could check it. As I speak to you, he's currently in Hong Kong. because the word got out and the MD was, this guy is really working. And the minister put him on a program as part of, that thing. And he just got a certificate in an institute in Hong Kong. That was yesterday. So in a nutshell, the key question is, do we understand the language of the business? How well are we engaging our relevant stakeholders? Also, finally, what are the intangibles that are of importance to management? Thank you. I don't know if you have any questions. Any questions?